So a very good morning again and a good evening to everyone who is joining us from this region of East Africa. We are welcoming you to today's Specialty Foods webinar, whose theme is Doing Business with the US. I'll be your moderator for the day. My name is Liane Kamau. I am the Knowledge Management and Communication Specialist working for the USAID TradeHub. I am based in Nairobi. We are pleased to welcome you to this second part of this two-part webinar series. Yesterday, we had the first session with leading experts from the US who enlightened us about the US market. And in case you're not there, I just want to go through what we covered yesterday. And they covered different critical aspects, which include opportunities for East Africa to promote specialty food exports to the US. We also looked at the recent trends in US specialty foods market. We had technical considerations of labeling processed foods in the US market, developments in specialty coffee and tea distribution and marketing. We also looked at key factors for specialty food imports in the US that included logistics, warehousing, and distribution. And we also looked at internet marketing. So today we have the second session where we have the privilege of listening to exporters from East Africa who are going to share their experiences with us on exporting to the US and how the governments are promoting exports to the US. So I want to start by giving us an overview of what we can expect. We have a series of presentations from 6 highly distinguished speakers, and we'll be starting with our program director, who will provide a project and a webinar overview, just to let us know what the project is about and what we can expect out of this webinar. And then we will have a series, the first two sets of speakers. So the first set of 3 speakers are going to be Janet Basima. We're also going to have Mega Jacquet and Honorable Patrick Wainaina. Each of these speakers will have 15 minutes and will be followed by a moderated 10-minute question and answer session. We will then have the last set of 3 speakers. We'll have Tahira Nizari, we'll have Wubishet Adugna, and Janice Grover. Each will also have 15 minutes and will be followed by another moderated 10-minute question and answer session. We will give you an opportunity to engage with the speakers during the question and answer session. As I have said, we are going to have 2 sessions. So at the end of each session, we are going to have a 10-minute question and answer session. And so I want to encourage you to jot your questions in the chat box so that as we progress with the presentations, you're able to indicate who you want to direct your question to. And should we have time at the end of that session, we are going to invite you so that then you can ask your question directly. And during that time, we'll ask you to unmute yourself and ask the question directly to the speaker. However, at this point, I want to say that we might have very many questions. And if we do not answer your question during the question and answer session, due to time limitation, we will share the questions with the speakers and we will send you the responses via the email addresses that you have shared with us. And so I want to just encourage you that we are very interested in hearing from you. And so we would want you to share your feedback. And in a minute, I'm going to explain to us how we are going to do that. And before we begin, there are a few issues that I just want to highlight. As I have said when we're starting, that we are recording this webinar and it's purely for internal purposes. And also I want to request all of us to have our mics muted and to have our videos off, unless we'll be asking the question during the question and answer session. We will also have the speakers' details and the presentations shared with you either today or tomorrow after the end of this webinar. So I know that is one of the questions we had yesterday where people were asking if we could share the presentations or the contact details of the presenter. So we are going to do that. I wanted to just let us know that when you are getting into this webinar room, you were required to register. However, in case you need to log off due to any technical challenge, and so you want to log off the room and you want to get in again, my colleague will share a link that you're going to use so that then you can just get directly into the room without having to register again. And so at this point, I just want to say, as we have said, that we value your feedback. And so my colleague Naima is going to share a link right now of the feedback questionnaire or a form. And I want to ask you to take just a minute or two to download it in your browser so that you'll have it ready, so that by the time that I ask you to fill it in, it will be already in place. So if you can do that in 1 minute or two, that will be very helpful. And also, in case you need to leave before the webinar is over, we will appreciate having your feedback before you go. So I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to request you to just click on that link that Naima has shared. It's going to take you to a web browser and you're going to have that questionnaire ready. You're not going to fill it right now. I am going to let you know the point at which you're going to fill it in towards the end of the webinar. So you can take a minute and do that now. Thank you very much. And with that, I now want to invite our Program Director, Margaret Waithaka, to provide an overview of the USAID TradeHub East Africa, as well as this webinar. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you very much, Leanne, and good afternoon, everyone. Good morning if you're from the US. I'd like to welcome all of you once again to this webinar. It's a second day of a two-day webinar. And we want to be able to make good progress in terms of sharing information about the US as a market for specialty foods from East Africa. We have both perspectives of the US, which were shared yesterday, and we have perspectives from East Africa, which is the subject of today's presentation. The objective of the webinar are four. One is to provide information about the USAID TradeHub East Africa activity, which is where we work, and the USAID TradeHub is the host of today's webinar. Secondly, we want to provide information on developments in the US specialty food market and East Africa's capacity to supply US requirements for the industry. Thirdly, we want to share learning from all of us through the questions and through the discussion. And last but not least, but very importantly, we'd like to be able to network amongst ourselves. In some previous webinars, some deals were done. Some people said they can supply, others said they can buy, and there was some business going on. So if you, from the discussion, if you see somebody who is interesting, maybe you can share some information. So let me go to basically the background. The USAID TradeHub is a USAID project. It's a short name for the USAID Southern Africa Trade and Investment Hub, which is an economic development project of USAID. It's a 5-year program. It's based in Southern Africa, the headquarters in Pretoria, and its main purpose is to spur economic development in the Southern Africa region, with a specific focus on building partnerships amongst the countries in the region and also trade with the US. Now, the USAID mission here in Nairobi, which is the regional mission for East Africa, partnered with the USAID mission in Southern Africa based in Pretoria, and they came up with an activity which we call a buy-in. This buy-in activity is 18 months long, and its main purpose is to promote economic activity between the US and 5 East African countries. That's Ethiopia, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda. And these are the countries which are represented in this webinar. The 18-month activity is intended to boost two-way trade and investment between the US and East Africa, primarily under the US government's Prosper Africa initiative, with a focus on, first of all, expanding exports to the US under AGOA. AGOA stands for Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. It's a 20-year-old program which provides duty-free access for very many products, over 6,400 products or tariff lights from East Africa and the rest of Sub-Saharan Africa to go to the US duty-free. So our focus is primarily to expand the products exported under AGOA to the United States and this trade arrangement will end in 2025. So we still have 5 more years. Secondly, we'll be supporting the flow of technology, capital, and investment from the US to East Africa. Thirdly, we'll be looking at facilitating how to reduce barriers to trade within East Africa, so the East African countries amongst themselves can also trade efficiently. Next slide. So looking at the activities of our project, we have 5 major activities. First of all, we provide information about AGOA initially. So under the previous TradeHub, which ended in 2019, a number of AGOA 101 primers were developed. And while this project is going on, we're going to finalize 2 more for 2 of the countries. These are primers that help you as an exporter looking to export to the US to know exactly what to do, what are the key steps, how do you go about it, who are the providers, how much does it cost, and so on. Secondly, we're providing information about the end market, the market itself for different sector products. We've just completed the study for specialty foods, and we'll be able to share it with you in a couple of, if not days, then in a week. Thirdly, we'll be looking at mapping, building capacity, and coaching the enterprises so that they're better equipped to enter the US market. And this webinar is part of that capacity building. Thirdly, we'll be linking exporters to the US market, US market for capital, technology, and also for buyers. So we'll be doing various activities, including supporting one-to-one linkages, identifying sources of finance and investment, and also helping East African companies identify where they can source technology for their businesses. We will also be linking associations from East Africa and the US. And finally, we'll be working on regional trade policy analysis and review. The sectors we work in are, of course, specialty foods, including coffee and tea, apparel and PPE, which is relevant in these times, footwear, home decor and fashion accessories, and last but not least, essential and natural oils. And in each of these sectors, we're doing the same similar type of activities that I've listed there. Next slide. If you want to get in touch with us, our contact details are below. The easiest one is the email at the bottom, eastafricatrade@di.com. eastafricatrade@di.com. Now, without further ado, I'd like to hand over back to Leanne to introduce our first speaker of this afternoon. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Leanne. And thank you, everybody, for inviting Nayeb to speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to introduce Janet Basima is from the National Agricultural Export Development Board, otherwise known as NAEB, from Rwanda, and she'll be talking about the functions of her organization to promote coffees and teas and other specialty foods from Rwanda. Thank you very much. Janet, over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Leanne. I had started by introducing NAEB and what it does. NAEB is a government agency that is charged with growing agriculture exports for offsetting negative balance of payments. The country imports more than it can export, so that's why the government put there the NAEB, so that it can leverage the exports, coffee, tea, and other agricultural exports. So that is the mission. The mission is just to grow agriculture exports from Rwanda so as to increase exports, overall exports from the country. Agriculture exports currently contribute 25% of the total Rwandan domestic exports, other being minerals and other products. And it also contributes 25% of the gross domestic product. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this table is just to show you how the agriculture exports have been growing for the last, I think, 4 years. I don't know, I can't see the total here. But for last year, we had, I think, $419 million US. And by the year 2024, we want to have agriculture exports contribute at least $1 billion as part of exports. Next slide, please. Oh, okay. This slide is the same as the previous one, except that this one is showing each product. As you can see, we have the diversified products are increasing, whereas coffee and tea, coffee at the moment seems stagnant because of some various reasons. But there are some strategies to see that also to grows. But we had traditional crops that were exported. That was tea, coffee, and pyrethrum. But recently we had to go to other products so that at least the exports can grow. This is why you see the diversified products are growing. I will not stay much here. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, so this one is the one that shows the projections. As you can see, projections, we have strategies to grow, especially tea, horticulture, coffee has some issues, but it will so grow, especially in terms of quality and specialty coffee. And by the end of 2024, as I have told you, we want to be at least at $1 billion in exports. We can go to the next slide. Maybe that's when we'll explain more what we are doing. So this slide shows what NAEB is doing in terms of promoting specialty coffee and tea or beverages. So what we are doing mainly is like increase production or productivity for specialty products. We are doing diversification, and we are also doing quality checks to see that all the products that are exported are of high quality. So those are like 3 strategies we're doing, but in that the activities is like looking for more land that is suitable to grow coffee and tea of high quality. We are also supporting farmers and cooperatives in capacity building and in good agricultural practices and in processing techniques. We give incentives for exporters, especially in coffee, that are exporting fully washed coffee. This is a program that we started in 2010, where exporters of coffee that do fully washed coffee are exempted from export fees. And since the program started in 2010, we are now at 60% fully washed coffee. And this is a program that we want to continue so that we tap into the specialty coffee market. What other NAEB does is to invest in catalytic areas where we can see production is not going as expected. And so NAEB invests in such areas. We have invested in the coffee roasting factory. RIFCC, we have also invested in a flower farm, better flowers. These are areas that we see are stagnating, so NAEB goes in and invests in them. Currently, we are doing operation exercise so that our coffee is sold as a single origin. This we hope is going to also tap into the specialty market. We also do data research so that we have marketing intelligence reports to guide exporters and other government agencies on the decisions to take. You can go to the next slide, please. In marketing, what we are doing is to help our exporters access specialty international markets, but we also enforce quality, as I said previously, and certification so that at least our products meet international standards. So in marketing area, we collect and analyze information so that it's shared with our exporters to know where the markets are, and then come back and work according to that, to the markets. We support our exporters also to participate in national and international conferences and exhibitions. NAEB is a member of Specialty Coffee Association of America, Specialty Coffee Association of Japan, and the African Fine Coffees Association. They do annual trade fairs, and we support our exporters to join and attend these annual exhibitions so that they can forge relationships with buyers. NAEB has developed national and coffee and tea brands to facilitate the visibility and awareness of our specialty coffee and tea. We have also developed e-commerce platforms to support international trade. We have one that was helped by Alibaba, electronic world trade platform, and a lot of exporters are using it. We also have e-agri-export platform that was developed by NAEB, and it's helping exporters of especially coffee and tea to use it and sell to niche markets. We are also in near future going to launch a coffee and tea auction so that our products are not sold through Mombasa auction as is done today. In terms of quality, we verify the exports. We have a team that verifies the quality of all exports that are exported from Rwanda. They are tested and given certification of quality, authenticity, and certificates of origins. This is all to ensure that the exports that we send outside there are of good quality. You can go to the other slide. Yeah, this one is showing our export markets for coffee. The biggest part of the coffee goes to Switzerland. Switzerland has 44%. We also export, the second export destination is USA, UK, Belgium, and Singapore. But the coffee that is exported to Switzerland, most of it is also re-exported. Coffee in Rwanda is a smallholder. We don't have big plantations for coffee. It's smallholder plantations. 98% of it is Arabica, Bourbon origin, and almost all coffee produced in Rwanda is exported. 95% of coffee is exported. And we have about 50 companies that are buying from Rwanda directly, and some of them are from USA, like Starbucks, Costa. So those are the destinations of our coffee from Rwanda. Next slide shows tea export destinations. Tea is mostly sold in the eastern part of Europe. Most of it goes to Pakistan. The reason why we are selling to these countries, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, Sudan, Egypt, it's because they like the strong liquors of our tea. But we also sell to USA, though it's a very small percentage, I think like 1%. We have some companies, USA-owned companies, one big company in Rwanda that is owned by USA investors, and they sell directly to the US. Next slide, please. Tried to show some Rwandan companies that are selling directly to the USA. Rwanda Trading Company is also a US owned company, and they sell directly, I think, to their sister companies in the US. But most of them, they sell green coffee, bulk green coffee. There are few that are exporting in packaged form. And those are the ones I think that meet a lot of challenges. Otherwise, most of these companies sell FOB Mombasa or Dar es Salaam. You can go to the next slide. We tried to show some of the challenges companies from Rwanda meet when they are exporting to the USA. Some of them mentioned stiff competition from already established roasters. So getting a distributor in USA is very difficult, and so they sell through brokers. So if they sell through brokers, of course, their profits, the profit margins are reduced. Another challenge is logistics. Container, if they transport by sea, it takes 2 to 3 months to arrive in the USA, and by air it's very expensive. A kilo is lifted at $6. Coffee prices also on international markets are volatile. They keep on changing, and this discourages farmers and also exporters. Others cited some unfamiliar documents, requirements that they also encounter in the USA. They cited ISF format, importer security filing, that sometimes some of them don't know, and when they export without filling it, maybe they get some penalties. Some other exporter also cited FDA standards. There's one who the container had to be returned because they had not fumigated their pallets. So it seems there's some need to train and educate people about the requirements, the documentation required for the US market. With this short time, this is what I had to share with you, but I hope in the Q&A session we can answer more questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janet, for that very informative presentation. And we want to go to the next speaker. And our next speaker of the day is Meg Hilbert-Jacquet. And Meg wears many hats. She is the Managing Director of Jacana Foods Limited, an all-natural food processing and packaging solutions company based in Kawempe in Uganda, specializing in dried fruit, juice, sauces, and jams. And since 2016, she has also served as the Vice President of the American Chamber of Commerce in Uganda. As the chairperson of the AGOA Exporters Association of Uganda, she has become an expert at the requirements to export from Africa to the USA. Her mission is to use her 35 years of project management experience to grow businesses, and if they can be organically managed businesses, all the better. Welcome, Meg.
Thanks, Leanne. Great to be here. All right, so if you could put the slides up. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning to those who are in the US. As Leanne said, my name is Meg Jacquet. I am the Managing Director of Jacana Foods here based in Kampala, Uganda. So I wanted to go over my experience as an exporter. I've been exporting to the US, and as you can tell, I am a US citizen by my accent. I've been exporting to the US since 2014. We were actually approached by an American business who wanted organic certified dried fruits for export to the US. At the time, we were not even organic certified, and we were not even doing dried fruits. But we had the capability of being able to reach that market, so we decided to venture into that line of business. So I want to talk about, U.S. market requirements, the food safety management aspects that are required here in Africa, some of the retail labeling requirements that I've discovered, and a lot of it was gone over yesterday if you were in on the call. And then the transportation and logistics issues that I've come up with and encountered over the years. Next slide. So the magic question I always get is, how can I sell my product in the US? And I actually attended a very interesting USAID webinar late last year. And these were the 4 components that they discussed. You really need to look for that opportunity gap. So as I said, someone approached us to dry organic certified fruit for export. We weren't doing it, but it obviously was a gap in the market. So that is why we got into the business. Going to shows to create interest. So if the more that you can place yourself in front of customers, the better. I did hear one of the speakers yesterday mention that in order for you to really get into the US market, they need to see that you're already in a market somewhere. So if you don't already have a presence here in your own country in Africa, it's best that you get that taken care of now. I remember that East Africa Trade and Investment Hub always told Ugandans to at least sell into Kenya first. Because if you can sell into Kenya, then you can show that you have the data to prove that you can reach out into other markets. So make sure that you're going to shows, make sure you're selling in your own country. Decide which types of products you're going to sell. Now, again, we can do dried fruit, we can do juice, we can do sauces, we can do dried herbs. And we do some of those for the US market, we do some of them for this local market. So make sure you are deciding which lines of business that you're going to sell. Now, don't try to do too many, don't try to do apparel and food. That might not make sense. And even coffee and food, specialty food, may not make as much sense unless you can cross-sell. That's one thing I like to promote here at Chakana Foods, is I like to be able to cross-sell between our product lines. So someone who likes our juice may also like our dried fruit. So cross-sell as much as possible. And you in the US, you're going to sell you and your story. You're not so much going to be selling your product. Because if you remember yesterday, they talked about the orange lollipops. And if you go into Amazon, you might see 500 companies selling orange lollipops. You need to differentiate yourself. So you're not selling a lollipop. You're selling the story behind how you've made that lollipop. Next slide. So our experience. So we had the opportunity to do 2 types of products. You can either be a wholesaler or you can be a retailer. Now, a wholesale obviously is a bit easier. You're looking for an importer, someone who may even put it under their own brand, or you can add your component into their final product. So a lot of people talked about coffee yesterday, selling their green beans. Yeah, it's great. Get your green beans over to the US, let it go to Louisiana, let them roast it, and let them sell roasted beans. Or you can try to sell roasted beans yourself. It's really what you're trying to reach and which type of product you are. Because the requirements on us as exporters from here in Africa are a bit different. So when you're looking as a wholesaler, you want to meet your importer's requirements. You want to look at what price do they have to receive it as. You want to know what volume they want and the time frame that they want it. Do they want 1 shipping container a year? And can your product sit around waiting for that? Or do they want something every 6 weeks? So there's a great book I've read, and I always use it in every presentation, and I tell people, look for it. It's called Nail It, Then Scale It. And this is where I go back to say, if you can nail it in your own country, then you should be able to scale it in other countries. Now, if you're looking to retail, you have to have that very impactful story behind you. Now, can people find you on the internet everywhere? If not, well, then it's probably not going to reach into the US market very well. Do you have an elevator pitch? You've got 15 seconds in an elevator to convince someone to buy your product. Do you have that ready? Now, Janice actually taught me these few things. Setting up a USA business. So there's a business called a B Corp, which is a for-profit business, but it has social impact. You have to register your trademark, as was identified yesterday, because let's say Jacana Foods, if I want to sell into the United States, I have to make sure no one else is also using that name, Jacana Foods, because otherwise there could be some, infringements going on between two companies trying to use the same name. You also have to be able to set up a bank account there, product liability insurance. You have to have a customs broker. You have to have a pack house, unless you are selling properly labeled products from Africa into the US. So all of that really takes a lot when you're trying to set up a retail business. Then you have to have your marketing and sales plan to go to food shows, to do retail taste testing, to be on Amazon with sellers and partners. And I always recommend that you find brand leaders who you can partner with. You don't want to go into the US market by yourself. It's very daunting. It's very overwhelming. So look for partners where you have synergy. Okay, next. Next slide. All right, so some of the food safety things that we have to be aware of here in Uganda when going to the United States. And this would be in the case for any of you that are looking to export from Africa. So you have the FDA. So you have the Food and Drug Administration. You have to be a registered factory. It has to be inspected, and you have to have an FDA US agent that is required. It is someone who's going to receive notices for your imports and issues that might be coming up under regulations. Somebody in the US must be notified. If you're going to wholesale, as was discussed yesterday, it is purely the importer's responsibility to ensure food safety standards. But they may not buy from you if you're not at least a HACCP certified company. So you need to be able to present your HACCP plan to that importer so that importer doesn't get in trouble once they've imported your food and then start to distribute it around the United States. Now, if you're looking to do retail packages, as an exporter, you must have that international food safety certification. So something like ISO 22000 and HACCP is obviously going to be a minimum requirement. So establishing which type of market reach you're going for, whether you're going wholesale or retail, will then translate back into which type of food safety do you need here in Africa. All right, so the labeling. This was also gone over a lot yesterday. Very different between when you're a wholesaler, which is what we do at Jacana Foods. We don't retail as an exporter. We have basically a 2-kilogram bag of dried fruit. It has the name of the product. It has the production date, expiry date, the volume of the bag, our contact information, anything else that might be required by the importer. You must send a certificate of analysis to your importer if they request it, which is done here by UNBS, to make sure that there is no foreign bodies that are going to be a problem for that importer, or any sort of contamination. Now, of course, through AGOA, you will get a certificate of origin, which is done through URA at the time of export. Now, we ship everything by air right now. We're too small of a boutique company. So that is all done by our clearing agent here, and it's done at the airport. But it allows those products to then go to our buyers in the United States tax-free. So now if you're doing retail, obviously you have to, your labeling, as was gone over yesterday, has to be very detailed and very specific for the US requirements. Now remember, every country has their own requirements for retail packages. So that's why we have opted to become just a wholesale exporter, because if I want to export into the US and UK and Europe, every label is going to have to be different, and that's a very expensive endeavor. So by going wholesale, we just have to have a very simple wholesale label on it and let those who are receiving it repack it under their own name or put it as an ingredient into their own product. This is an example of our product, which we created here in Uganda, plantain chips, but it was sent to a USA company and they put it under their own brand, created their own packaging, have their own story behind it, have the proper nutrition facts format of their label, have their international barcode, everything that's required. So this is something that, again, we sell it to her wholesale. She puts it in her own packaging under her own brand. And that's what I recommend that a lot of us from Africa do, because again, it's quite a daunting task to be able to put yourself into retail outlets while you're based here without having a U.S. presence. Okay, so this was talked about yesterday too. So, I'm also looking at, where can I possibly even fulfill wholesale within the United States? Because it's still an option. I mean, I ship every once in a while to just a small group of customers in the United States. I will warn you, it can be quite expensive when you do small ones, and I'll go over that in the next slide. But you have to figure out where are they going to find you. Shopify, your own site, Etsy, Amazon, partners who are looking for unique complements to their product line. And I suggest for those of us here in Uganda or even in your other countries, look for your diaspora. There's no reason why your diaspora is not supporting products that are coming from your home countries. There's so many West African countries that do it. I know Ghana, I know Nigerians that are in the United States. They pretty much only like to exclusively buy products from their countries. So make sure that you have diaspora in your target market for your products. So again, with retail, if you're going for it, there's the allowances, the discounts, the freebies. So you have to have a lot of money behind you from a marketing effort in order to go into retail. And as Janice mentioned yesterday, if your product is $1 here, it's going to be $4 there, because it has to cover everything from above. So if you're expecting to earn $4 here and you multiply that by 4 and it's going to be $16 in the US, and all of a sudden you've priced yourself out of the market, then you have to rethink what your product is or what your pricing structure is, or whether or not that product is suitable for the US market. Okay, next slide. So Uganda to US transportation. So by air, we do smaller shipments. I would suggest at least a minimum of 300 kilos in order for it to be affordable. I sent something like 21 kilos to Los Angeles last month, and it cost me just to clear with a one-time import bond was $175. So $175 just to clear 21 kilos, and that would have been the same price if I was clearing 300 kilos. So you have to really be careful, especially with food, when you're importing to make sure you're meeting that minimum. You can still ship by air up to 2 to 3 metric tons, but just remember that door-to-door costs could be anywhere between $5 and $12 a kilo. Now, if you go by sea, for us in dried fruit, it's going to be a little over 5 metric tons, but you want to make sure, again, it's 4 to 6 metric tons to be affordable. The possible cost is $1.50 a kilo to a port plus all the inland costs. So if something is sent to New York, but your customers are in Missouri, then you also then would have to make sure those inland costs to get it from New York to Missouri by truck or train are taken care of. Okay, next slide. So the one limitation I find that we have for food from Uganda is that USDA has never approved fresh food from Uganda to be imported in the United States. It's been requested in my EVE to register Uganda for years. I think some people still are able to very small quantities, but if we want to do any larger quantities of fresh food from Uganda to the US, it has to be registered with the USDA. And the other issue I think we talk about and don't talk about enough is general capacity of not being able to meet the client's demand. I asked this question yesterday. What kind of minimums should we be expecting to send? And Janice said a pallet. So you have to figure out what is a pallet of your products, and are you willing to send it in retail, and maybe it'll get sold, maybe it won't, or a minimum of pallet to a wholesaler, take a slightly lower price, but at least you're generating business. And for us, capacity, we don't meet the demand, so we're generally leaving more business on the table because people come to us wanting more business than we can turn around and give them. Next slide. So buying patterns, keep an eye on e-commerce. This was talked about a lot yesterday. The buying patterns have seriously changed for the US market. Organic certified, also extremely large and growing. And then the 3 pillars to the USA success is the collaborative sourcing. So don't try to be a silo and do it yourself. Getting things time to market. You Americans want stuff and they want stuff now. And traceability is key. Where is this stuff coming from? You want to make sure that there's fair trade in anything that you're doing. Last slide. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Meg, for that. We really appreciate you taking time to just take us through that. Now, we are going to invite our second speaker for the day, and this is Honorable Engineer Patrick Wainaina, who is a Kenyan entrepreneur. He's a philanthropist, politician, and a current member of parliament for Thika Town constituency in Kiambu County. Honorable Wainaina started his career at Thika Cloth Mill, where he started as an assistant spinning manager until 1992. He joined Kenya Nut Company as a production manager. He later joined Sprint Inc. Lowell in USA as a marketing engineer before joining Safaricom Limited as a senior roaming manager. Honorable Wainaina will be sharing his experience from the company he founded in 2004, which is Jungle Nuts Limited or Sour Africa EPZ Limited. Welcome, Honorable Wainaina. Honorable Wainaina, you're there?
Yes, good. Thanks, Leanne, for this good, nice introduction. I think it's very funny, it's very interesting from business to politics. But I think the good thing is I have a very good base in my farmers. And I think those are the guys who have been taking me to the parliament. So I'm still more of a farmer, more of a businessman as compared to the politics. And I am the CEO of Jungle Nuts. And in Jungle Nuts, we started with macadamia, and but then we have diversified to a lot more other products. And we have a bias towards organic farming and fair trade. Right now, we are doing, we have about 100,000 farmers. Of these 100,000 farmers, about 30,000 of them are organic. It's a crazy figure. It's a crazy figure, especially when you're talking about organic. But what you have done is that in all these businesses, we have really employed the IT in the farm. We have 2 applications that we use in the farm. We have one called J Shamba. Shamba is farm in Kiswahili. J is jungle. So jungle farmers. So J Shamba is an application where we have got our own farmers, our own employees, and then what you have done to the farmers, because these farmers are big, many. So what you have done is that we have congregated them into clusters of about 100 farmers. Employee is the one who takes care what the purchasing part of it, the agronomy, so they are kind of all-rounded. And what you have done also, and I think is a very big thing, is that we have tried to eliminate the middlemen, so that whatever price that we purchase from the farmer is what reaches, whatever we are buying, whatever price that we put for the farmer is what reaches the farmer in reality. So that means that the more profit they make, the more royal they become. And of course, they get inspired. So that has been very, very important for us. And this also has made us to be able to move or rather increase our portfolio. So I said we started with macadamia, then we came to cashews. We are doing avocado, organic avocado. In fact, we do, I think we're the biggest producer of avocado oil, organic. We are also doing macadamia oil. We are doing dried fruit. Dried fruit, we do 4 fruits. Not exactly dried fruit. Not. I don't think. When Meg says dried fruit, I know what she's talking about. But our dried fruit, we do what we call fruit cube. Is that we just take the fruit and we pulp it, and then from there we dry it, and then we can combine 2 or 3 fruits, and we make a very nice, tasty fruit cube. Now we introduced another fruit cube where we are putting macadamia and cashew. So we call it nutty fruit. So again, a very interesting product. Again, in the fruits, we are doing pineapple, we do mango, we do banana, and we do tomato. We do those 4. We also bring spreads. Spreads have been very, very popular. Macadamia spread, we do macadamia spread, we do cashew spread, we do the combination of the 2. So again, and then we also become a bit creative and we put chia inside. So yeah, just trying to make some good product development just to be able to attract. Of all these products, 60% of all our products go to the US, 40% goes to elsewhere. We have a domestic market, very small though, about 3%. But then again, Meg said, it's very, very important to have a strong domestic market. It's only that maybe some of our products being specialty, things like macadamia are very expensive in the local market because the production of macadamia, we have a lot of profit loss. So basically that means that when you're selling it per unit, then the price goes up. And the idea that macadamia is seen like an export product. So we started with that export product. But again, domestic market cannot be very, very strong. Only that when you go to retail market, you have to be careful and you have to put enough resources into the same. Let me say this. The international market, especially when you go to the US, everybody wants to go to the US. And it's very challenging in that if you don't have the pricing right, then it becomes very, very difficult to be able to move your product. And also there is this notion that anything export is big money. It is not. Export market a lot of times is volume. If you don't have volume, you will never make money. Very, very difficult. Now, what are the advantages of this country? I mean, my experience as a Kenyan importer to the US, the fact that Kenya is full of these small-scale farmers. If you go to a place like US, I mean, Hawaii, they used to, in fact, they used to be #1 in macadamia export. But then because of so many various factors, the land becomes very expensive. There are other areas of the economy that are competing with agriculture. You find that if you really want to become an orchard owner, I mean, a farmer, you really have to have a very big orchard, 1,000 acres, for example, for you to make money. So those issues have really made our country to penetrate this business, this market. Right now, the farmers who are in Australia now, right now in the world market, let me say macadamia because it's our biggest. We have South Africa being #1, followed by Australia. Kenya has become #3. And then US has gone to #4. I think other countries like Malawi, Rwanda, they are catching up very quickly, which is a good thing. But the thing is, being in small scale, our people are able to do, we are able to scale up very, very quickly. In that today, if we have a nursery, we have a tree nursery, we produce about 200,000, 200,000 seedlings every year. And these seedlings, the uptake is very, very quick. And with our 100,000 farmers, it means those are only 2 trees, 2 seedlings per person, so per farmer. So again, we are able to scale up very, very quickly. When you are doing organic, if you are doing an orchard and you want to make it organic, because it means that you really have to do a lot of spacing because you need to have the flow of air, the flow of sunlight. And you see, if you are in some countries like the US or Australia again, or as I said, South Africa, land again, agriculture is competing with so again, we have those advantages, and we can use them. About organic has got about what 20-30% on top premium. So basically, again, this is a very good margin for our farmers, and we have been taking advantage of this. We have been able to really do fair trade because of these small margin there. So again, it has been very nice. But this whole thing is not without challenges. And the challenges actually many. Again, I give you the example of my country. Yeah, we do a lot of avocados. And last year we did a lot of, say, fresh fruit. And what happened to the fresh fruit is that everybody who is sitting in Nairobi and has got $1 million shillings, they can be able to do a container of avocado export. When they export this avocado, these guys have no idea about the quality of avocado. They are doing this because they have the money and they've got the chance and the opportunity. However, when this avocado gets to the US, a lot of avocado does not go to the US, but it's a good example. A lot of it is going to Europe. However, this avocado, when it gets there, because the guy who is the exporter has no idea about farming, so he's just taking it because he has got money. So the quality becomes a very big issue. And you find that a lot of Kenyan product has been returned. Even when HCD are trying to do something about it, still you get they don't have enough money to follow up. So again, when I export my avocado in the US, I tried a couple of times. And every time I hear the response is, we are not taking a Kenyan avocado. The quality is so wanting. When we started doing this macadamia, we had to do a lot of marketing and really work hard. And we are working hard because the issue is I want to market my macadamia as Jungle macadamia so that people can start seeing the quality of Jungle macadamia. If I sell it as Kenyan macadamia, I'm in trouble. But remember, South Africa are selling their macadamia like South African macadamia. So they are able to do a lot. They're able to have a very big reach. Yeah. So, and their wide reach is helping them to be able to even to get the quality right. They're able to get the right markets. They're able to get the right prices. So this is a big challenge for us as we go to the US market, very, very competitive market. Which is also, I think, some way forward. I have tried to go online, but again, we need a lot of support for company. If for us, and we are a big company, we have been doing this business for the last 13 years, we have not been able to go online properly. So probably, I think we also need a lot of support, especially from the TradeHub. So I think that is something that you need to look at. Probably we can work on this together. There's something called liability insurance. Once you start selling to these countries direct, and then you have got a problem with your product, then it means if you're sued, you're finished. So again, that liability insurance is very expensive, but of course, I believe there's a way of going about it so that we are able to get our brand into the US market. There's this issue about the donor funding. The donor funding, I mean, if I see what Jungle Nuts is doing in the field with 100,000 farmers, if we got some funding, especially that is geared towards the farmers, and the kind of funding I'm talking about is, if you're doing seedlings, right now we are selling our seedling at about $3-4, one seedling, macadamia seedling. And with that, in fact, we have subsidized in that from the growing and everything and transportation and everything. So, but if we got a funding that can be able to say, fund, say 50% of this, then more farmers can be able to buy our seedling so that we can be able to enlarge our acreage. Things like what? Extension. The government of Kenya used to be very good in extension about 20 years ago. However, that is something we only read now in history books. There is no more extension in agriculture. And I'm saying this with full knowledge that I'm a government official. I think we should be changing these things. But I think this is a government of a big ship, so we need to steer it very slowly. So again, there's a lot of money that comes from donors through the government and through the NGOs. Still, again, if we can be able to channel this kind of money to extension, again, I think we can be able to ensure that our business between Kenya and the US is enhanced in a way. Now we are not talking about quality, we are not talking about productivity, we are not actually talking about production. So basically, I think those are issues that you also need to check to ensure that going forward, then the business doesn't become too expensive, so that, I mean, we don't have to price ourselves in some of these foreign markets that really are good market, and I think this is the way to go. going forward. So again, thank you, team, Leanne, Margaret, for your invitation, and I'll wait for questions.
Thank you very much, Honorable Wainaina. And now I want to invite the three speakers who have had this session to turn on your videos as we get questions from the participants. As I had said, if you have any question, we've been monitoring our chat box and we don't seem to have questions that have come in. But if you have any question, kindly raise your hand and I'll see you. But in the meantime, I just wanted to ask a question, and maybe I can even just start with Honorable Wainaina. You know, you have mentioned, I don't know, I've heard you saying that you do not export to the US. Is that true? Or there's some products you export to the US?
No, we export. I said 60% of all our products, all our exports go to the US.
All right,
And
fine. Then let me ask you a question. So then, in what way have you had to adapt your production and packaging and logistics to suit the US market trends? In what way have you had to adapt your production, packaging, and logistics to suit the US market needs?
Yes, let me put it this way. Basically, again, every business is down to the cost of production. And the US, the good thing with the US is that their policies are very open, very open. And if you've got the quality right, which is very key, if you've got your certifications right, of course, whatever you're calling the HACCP, whatever we call the ISO, whatever you call all those, if you've got them right, then you're good. But now, if your price is off, you are off any market, so to say. So that is where we started. And what you have done is that you have tried to employ a lot of IT into our agriculture, so that right from the farm gate, we have tried to ensure that that farmer, if you're purchasing from that farmer, the moment you purchase, by the way, it's a very interesting application. So it's in my phone, and then when I send a guy to purchase from the farmer, the price, which is usually the main problem, it is actually in our server. So when we are using the application picks from the server, so the price is fixed. You cannot change the price. You cannot change the weight because that weight is also weighed using the electronic device. And within the time, within the purchasing, all that information is sent to the server real time. And the farmer is paid through mobile money, real time. So by the time you're hanging those bags in the field, in 10 minutes when you hang those bags, and the moment you're done and you say transaction is over, the farmer already has got her money or his money. So this whole thing is very endearing to the farmer because the royalty goes straight up. But the most important part is you're paying for the product. You're not paying. With this one, you're able to bring the cost. When you go to the factory, all our processing, or from the office, everywhere, everybody is paid on commission. So that means if you only produce 1 ton of macadamia per day, we only pay for 1 ton of macadamia. If tomorrow they produce 10 tons of avocado oil, so we pay them as per those 10 tons of avocado oil. So basically, again, this has been very important and key in that even the employees know it is the effort they put that is paying them. So that is what has made us survive. And that is what has made us really like get into the US market and stick there, and so to see the foreign market.
Thank you very much for that response. I can see I had from Mohammed Noor Wako. Mohammed, kindly unmute yourself and ask your question, indicating who you are asking the question to. Wako, Mohammed Noor. Mohammed, when you're ready, you'll let me know. And Meg, maybe I can ask also, what measures have you taken, to keep abreast of US food quality requirements for your products?
Okay, so, you know, a lot of the requirements come directly from my importers. So if they have something specific that has changed in the requirements, then they let me know. It's like I said earlier, you know, if I'm going to ship to the UK, Germany, Turkey, US, Ukraine, wherever, it's not possible for us as an exporter to understand all the requirements of every one of those countries. That's why relying on an importer to understand all of those requirements is going to be very clear. So I always rely on that information to come to whoever I am importing to.
Great. Thank you, Meg. And maybe to Janet. Janet, if you can turn on your video, because we'd want just to hear from you, perhaps if you have some examples of success coffee exporters from Rwanda who are selling to the US. Janet Basima. You can hear me, Janet? I can see you, but your microphone is off.
Sorry, I was mute.
Yes, Janet, you're saying something?
Can you hear me now?
Maybe Janet could be having some
Janet,
challenges.
please go ahead.
And
We can hear you. Janet,
all right, go ahead.
please go ahead. We can hear you, Janet.
Yes, yeah. I was saying that in my presentation, I put there a slide that shows some exporters that do export to the USA, but the big one is Rwanda Trading Company. As I said, it's a US-owned company. The owners are from the US, and they ship mostly to the roasters in the US, but there are also other small. My connection is bad.
There's some technical challenge getting you. I'm not able to. Yes, maybe now you can go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you very well. Go ahead.
So the bigger exporter is Rwanda Coffee Trading, but there are also others like the Rwanda Coffee Farmers Factory. Actually, they were telling me they have delivered about 2 containers this week to the US. For them, they sell roasted coffee and packaged 300, I think 250 grams, 500 grams, and 1 kilo. So they also sell to the US. There is another company called Cafe Roi. If you want the details, there is a slide that there are some companies that export to the US. But maybe, as you said, we are going to share more information. We can give them later a list of other exporters that do export to the US. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I can see quite a number of questions for Honorable Wainaina, and some of them, maybe I can just take one from Charity, who is asking, how are you able to control or manage smallholder organic farmers? How do you prevent side selling and ensure loyalty?
Again, that's a very good question, by the way, and we also get these questions all the time because of the number of people that we have in our program. And this is what you have done. Before, we used to have, organic certification is a big thing, circular. And of course, we used to go to the farmer with a lot of books, and that used to scare the farmers away. And from there, we just decided now, what else? What is the way forward? So again, go back to IT. We just developed within Shamba. We have got an audit that we've developed in a questionnaire. The questionnaire is still in the phone, but then again, we internalize it because when you come to organic, those are easy things because in that you do not want to make farmer think too many things, or you bring something that is a mystery to the farmer. If the farmer does not understand organic, then it means the farmer cannot be able to comply. And the issue is organic is not it's not a program, it's a way of life. So what we did, number one, we said, oh, whatever you're talking about macadamia, whatever you're talking about the fruits, whatever you're talking about coffee, can we be able to do it to your potatoes, the one that you're growing in your farm, so that when you eat them, because the advantages of organic farming means no chemicals. It means you do not want only to benefit the customer. Can we first of all start benefiting you as the farmer? So we started selling that as a way of life. So, and from there, we started telling the farmer, when you have your cow, where do you spray your cow for the ticks? Okay, that is the place. Can we be able to earmark that place? That is the only place that you can spray your cows. Where is your store for your grains when you harvest? So we go to the store of the grains. So we say, now this store for the grains, you cannot put your containers for the chemicals, whatever you do. You cannot put anything that can contaminate your production. So again, we separate that. Then we say, where are you planting your macadamia? Where is the avocado? So between you and your neighbor, what is this that we can do so that we can separate you, both of you? So number one, we can use a big terrace so that the guys who are coming from that side and to this side, there is a distance. Or you can put a longer fence. We have got live fence, and then this is a very good trapper of all these chemicals. But then again, we are saying the tree cannot be too close to the border if your neighbor is not organic. Some of these things, we put questionnaire in the phone, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And then within that questionnaire, if the farmer has only 20 trees and one tree can be able to give us 20 kilos, so that means that is 400 kilos. So again, in the questionnaire, that questionnaire is also integrated with the purchasing, because it's one application. So if you give us more than 400 kgs of macadamia, the application will just close. You cannot sell anymore. But what is very, very important, the kind of cluster that we have made in the farm, we say the cluster is between 10 farmers and 100 farmers, but all within the same locality. So these people, if we block one of them and we say this guy is out of the program, the whole cluster is interdicted for 3 months. So what it means is that they cannot sell they don't have the margin for the organic. So the cluster become the brothers and the sisters keepers. So if one of them is doing something funny, then the other guy is, they're very, very quick to report. Yeah. So there's no way somebody can buy macadamia from somebody else. Yeah. So because they are taking care of themselves. But also what you have done is within all these cluster business, we have also tried to ensure that there is some kind of, in Kenya, we call them circle or cooperative movements, so that even for the whatever money they put, the margins they get because of their premium in organic, instead of cashing it in, they go and put it aside in the cluster, so that if any one of them wants some quick money, maybe they want to buy a cow, maybe they want to buy seedlings, maybe they want to buy some organic inputs, instead of them going back to their pocket, they go to the cluster's wallet, and they are able to apply a small loan times 3 of what they have saved. So that also has really put these people together, in that when always when there is money, there is good magnet for people to come together. So these people, they meet, like you find, depending on the activity, they'll meet at least once a month or once in 2 weeks. And for us, when they meet, they're not just talking about money. They're talking about the macadamia, they're talking about their dried fruit, their avocado, and money. So basically, we have tried to make an ecosystem that bring everybody together. And we are we are happy about that. And I think, again, let me challenge the TradeHub. Probably is something that you need to come and see. And if you can see how we can be able to strengthen that one, I think is a game changer. It's a complete big game changer in this country. I mean, 100,000 farmers is a big market.
That is true. Thank you very much. And I think, as Margaret said when we're starting, part of the objective of this webinar is to network and to share and to learn from one another. And you are having quite a number of questions. So I believe that this is also going to be a networking event, even post this webinar. I want to remind everybody that we shared a link where we would want to hear your feedback. And now I want us to change gears, and I want to go back to our second session, and I want to introduce our second speaker of the day. And we are going to have Tahira. Tahira Nizari is from Tanzania. She is the co-founder and managing director of Kazi Yetu, which translates to our work in Swahili. which is an agribusiness in Tanzania that adds local value to agricultural products, targeting local and export markets. Kazi Yetu currently produces and sells teas through their first brand, Tanzania Tea Collection, which is available across Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Germany, UK, and most recently the US. Kazi Yetu sources teas, herbs, and spices from farms around Tanzania and has a factory in Dar es Salaam, creating jobs for women in process, blending, and packaging. Welcome, Tahira, and have your video on as you present.
Opening your mouse.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you to all the speakers so far. I'm learning a lot from your presentations. Just as a quick precursor, as they're loading my slides, I actually joined this thinking I was going to just be a participant. And then just a couple of days ago, Leanne and the team called me to present. But we're a really small startup, and we've actually only exported to the US once, but we have lots of lessons learned from that one experience and generally from our other exports. So thank you for having me. So essentially, Kazi Yetu, we are a social enterprise based here in Tanzania. We're 2.5 years old. And really what we are about is creating jobs. And so Kazi Yetu is about, our work. It means our work in Swahili. And the way we see it in agriculture is to create local value addition to these products. And a lot of the time, products are exported in bulk, which is fine. And so a lot of the income goes down to the farmers, which is great. But we see a lot of other income opportunities along the value chain. And so we create products that are ethically sourced, traceable, and we can proudly say, produced in East Africa. And we are, trying to transform the way that products are made and traded between Africa and the world. So under Kazi Yetu, our first brand is a tea brand. It's called Tanzania Tea Collection. And we hope in the future that we would have other agriculture-based products under Kazi Yetu. So, and you can see Germany there. Essentially, we've created kind of a branch of Kazi Yetu in Germany, and that's our European-focused office. So on the supply side, we see that the problem is that on the supply side, agriculture products from Africa are traded globally, bringing minimum economic benefit to the supplying country, or often minimal. For example, with tea, 90% of the tea from Tanzania is exported through the tea auction in Mombasa. While on the flip side, on the demand side, you see globally, and as well from the other presenters yesterday and today, globally, consumers are more and more interested in conscious, ethical consumption, traceable products that are natural and organic. And so we see an opportunity to kind of bridge this and invest more into product development at the source rather than later on in the value chain. And we see this as a multi-billion-dollar opportunity to make and sell these products from Africa in a creative, impactful, and sustainable way. Similar to what Meg was saying, it really resonated was how, your product, what is your USP? It's often your story and your brand and everything around, what goes into your brand rather than the actual product itself. Of course, our tea is wonderful and I'm a big tea lover, but it's also about, telling the story of the women in our factory, telling the story of our farmers, the farmers that we directly have relationships with around Tanzania. And we see that this is a really big area of interest for consumers more and more. So our first product, as I mentioned, so it's Tanzania Tea Collection, and it's a range of fair, natural, and traceable tea blends. So we have tea blends, so that's black tea, green tea, and then we also have herbal infusions and spiced teas. And that really gives us an opportunity to work with a range of farmers around Tanzania. I mean, Tanzania, very similar to other countries in Eastern Africa, it's blessed with, several different altitudes and climates across the country. So you have your colder, higher mountainous areas. You also have your coastal areas like Zanzibar, which you can produce spices. And so we really get a beautiful range of these flavors. And so what we do is we work with these different farms and farmers around the country, and then we aggregate in Dar es Salaam. We have a factory here in Dar. And this is where we do our processing, blending, and packaging of our teas. So you can see here just a range of the 8 current blends we have. And what we put on all of our packaging is this value chain you can see below. And it just shows kind of, you can trace your tea from the plant to the harvesting stage, to drying, blending, packing, branding, and then your cup. And then we usually have a circle around that that says, 100% made in Tanzania. And so that's really, that I feel is our USP, is really being able to, draw a straight line back to the source and whoever was impacted in this production. What we're working on right now, as you can see in the photo in the slide, is there's a QR code. So we're working on a traceability aspect where you can literally, just scan the QR code and see the entire journey of the tea. And that could be the social conditions, the social benefit, the economic benefit, and then also the environmental conditions in which your products, your teas were produced. We're still in very early stages for that part. That is really big, I feel, in coffee and chocolate, and I think there's a really big opportunity in tea still to push traceability. Our longer term vision, as you can just see mentioned here, is to expand to Africa tea collection rather than Tanzania tea collection. So I will trademark that now, and essentially source different ingredients from farms around Africa, even, or at least Eastern Africa in the beginning. So, you have beautiful vanilla from Madagascar. You have beautiful orthodox teas, as mentioned earlier today, from Rwanda, green teas, white teas, etc. And then you also have, rooibos from South Africa, and we get a lot of requests for that. So there does lack a global African tea product in the world. So anyone who's interested, let me know. And another aspect about our product and impact is our farm hub model. So what we do is generally there are specific geographic locations across Tanzania. There are 4, and we develop partnerships with these kind of hubs where we can extend support to the farmers as well to guarantee quality and quantity. So next slide, please. Yeah, okay, great. Traction. So essentially, this is where we are so far. Again, 2.5 years in. We have one factory in Dar es Salaam where we hire only women. So currently we're employing 14 women. All of them are kind of youth and previously did not have jobs. We've also, back to the other slide, please. Hold on, let me just open it here. So we have one sales and marketing setup in Germany, and that's, again, as I mentioned, it's really an entry point for us to expand within Europe. We source from over 2,500 organic farmers, and that's not direct. I mean, it's through organizations, cooperatives, through the Tea Board, etc., that we gain support from as well. And as I mentioned, the 4 sustainable farm hubs. And then we, in terms of traction, we have recurring demand from over 100 B2B customers in these countries. So Germany, UK, Austria, France, Belgium, these are kind of the European countries. And then USA most recently, and a bit of Middle East as well, and now and also East Africa. So in terms of our export experience, what I wanted to talk about in terms of the US. So as you know, we were talking about this yesterday during the presentations and then also today. I think the main thing for a startup agribusiness is really, first of all, identify a company that, will take the leap of faith for you. And that's, I think, one of the biggest hurdles. And so we found SipsBy, which is a tea marketing company. And what they do is they showcase teas from everywhere in the world. And they, generate interest across the US. However, the catch was SipsBy said, look, we'll take it, but we can't help you with anything because they don't want to get involved in logistics. Their main focus is marketing and sales, which I get. And so really we just said, okay, well, this is our first time sending a food product to the US, like, let's Google this. And this is everything we learned along the way. And so the first thing we did, we sent samples with DHL. And then, with SipsBy, we obtained agreements and the initial invoice, it was on consignment. We got their purchase order. And then based on that paperwork, we started to register with the FDA. Now, as a foreign facility, everyone, you must register with the FDA. You must register yourself as a food facility. It's free and it's quite straightforward. The only catch there was that you must identify someone in the US who has an address who can be your representative. So in my case, I was really fortunate. I do have a family member there, and she offered. But I do think that it might be a challenge for businesses that don't have such a contact. And I think there is a solution where you can actually hire a company to be your like local agent. So it's quite a quick process. It didn't take more than 5 to 10 days. And I called customer service of FDA several times. They were really clear. They were very helpful. And it was quite a breath of fresh air when you're speaking to an authority and they're actually really, really helpful. And so next slide, please. So thereafter, we booked our shipment with air freight. And then with that tracking number, you must file prior notice of your shipment on the FDA portal. You need that tracking number to do that. And essentially, that is critical to the turnaround time of when you do send your products and how long they take to clear, because FDA has the right to stop and check all your paperwork. And so once you've done that, then you come back, you think about, well, what permits do you need from Tanzania? So your export permit, your radiation certificate, your phytosanitary certificate, and very important, your certificate of origin, which has come up a couple of times today through the Chamber of Commerce. And that is necessary for import duty exemption. Again, that was really important for us, especially because SIPSBY, the company, they told us, we're not taking any responsibility for your goods. So if for some reason import duties are charged, etc., like that's on you. So we were really, really careful with making sure all of our paperwork was in line. And then, send your shipment. FDA did call us for clarification afterwards, and we did have to, make some changes and get some more paperwork. But overall, it was quite a smooth process. And I didn't really talk about it here, but the labeling as well. That came up a lot yesterday as well, and it is, there are a lot of resources online that to make sure that you get your labeling correct. And the good thing is it just needs to be in English. It's not like Europe where you need like 8 different languages on one packaging. And so at least in that sense, it's clear, it's simple, and it also aesthetically looks good on your packaging. Just the next slide. It was a screenshot of my prior notice entry, just to kind of show you. It's quite simple. Don't be daunted by FDA. I was, and then I regretted it later. So yeah, and then basically next slide, I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time. So we are going to have our next speaker, who is Wubishet Adugna. And as Wubishet gets ready to present, I want to direct our attention to the link that we had shared earlier. And as I had said, it has very few questions, and we just want to hear about your experience. So we just want to hear from you the usefulness of this webinar. Has it been useful to you? Has it helped you, and has it supported you to learn more and to even be? Sorry, there is some noise in the background. I don't know. Yeah, so they're just few questions. They're just actually about 4. So we want to know if you would have other topics that you'd want to suggest that we can consider in the future, and we want us to engage with you beyond this webinar. Other comments that you might have. So the questions that you'll be responding to shortly. So I want to welcome Wubishet. Wubishet, is that noise from your end?
I don't think, yeah.
Yeah,
there is a noise, yeah.
Okay, fine. No, we'll just work with it as it moves. So just to introduce Wubishet. Wubishet is the president of the Ethiopian Honey and Beeswax Producers and Exporters Association, and he has spent his entire career in development and agribusiness sector, where he has gained practical experience in rural development and agribusiness. Wubishet has acted as a facilitator in design, identification, materials, establishment of laboratories, feed mill rearing, honey and beeswax processing plants,
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, Wubishet, please talk loudly. There's a bit of background noise, but you're doing well. Please talk loudly. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll project my noise. Okay. 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 The Ethiopian Honey and Beeswax Producer and Exporter Association, established in 2006 with 56 members, and then members comprise of unions, cooperative, processing companies, and interested people involved in apiculture sector.
So there's not much more we can do in terms of...
Please? Yeah. By the way, Ethiopia has a biggest colony in Africa. Almost our bee colony is comparable with China, which is the biggest producer in the world. 1.4 million farm households involved in apiculture, and about 10% of honey produced in the country is consumed by beekeeping households. The remaining 90% is sold as an income generation, and then 70% is used for brewing touch. We have a traditional honey wine, and then it is apiculture is a vital in job creation and to keep the environment. As I explained earlier, we only produce 8.6% of our potential, but we have a potential of producing about 500,000 metric tons, and then it is still we are producing below 10%. And because of this, productivity from the traditional hive is very low, that is 5 to 6 kilogram on average, and then almost 96% of our honey comes from the traditional beekeeping. As I mentioned earlier, we are first in Africa and fourth largest beehive stock in the world. And in honey production, we stood 10th in the world. Currently, we have been producing about 54,000 metric ton. In terms of honey export, we are lagging behind and ranked 51. Next slide. Yeah, this one I already explained. Next slide. Yeah, this is the honey production. We are 10th in the world, as I mentioned earlier. Next slide. Yeah, this is export of honey. Imagine we are almost last. Yeah, 5th in the world. Yeah, even Yemen is ahead of us. I will explain to you the reason. This is some of the examples. For instance, in 2013, we exported about 884. In 2014, declined 798. In 2015, we exported 617 tons, and we earned 2013 3.1 million USD, and then 2.6. In 2015, 2.1. And then the destination countries are Norway, Sudan, Germany, Yemen, UK, Japan, Italy, Somalia, Saudi Arabia, and beeswax to Germany, Japan, USA, UK, and the Netherlands. Almost we are reaching the majority of countries, but the problem is the contraband is a big problem, and then even Yemen is ahead of us because of the contraband they are taking from here and then selling. For instance, to Sudan, Somaliland, all our neighboring countries are honey is smuggled, and then the figures are not actually representative for our export. When you come to the constraint or challenges, we have technological factors, low knowledge skills, lack of good quality processing, production and equipment, few demonstration farmers, and then cost of product certification is very high. We have only a couple of certifiers from abroad. In case of cooperative and union, they have inadequate storage facilities and high selling price. And then this is a problem to compete in the world market. When you come to the policy and regulation, inadequate enforcement of existing standards, and then our honey, beeswax, and beekeeping equipment standards are voluntary, they are not mandatory. And then our association is pushing the government to make the standards mandatory. And the other one is lack of accreditation service provided for laboratory food safety and organic system certification. And currently, the World Bank is running a big project, a 5 years project. The name of the project is National Quality Infrastructure, and then they're supporting the honey sector. And then it is in the process, and then to build an accredited laboratory and other certification systems. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, the recommendations are improve access to technology, especially for small scale beekeepers. And the other one is farmer training center, both for beekeepers and technicians. And the other one is enhanced certification. And then next year we will run a big uh, international conference on organic apiculture, and then the IFOAMA, the International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movement, promised us to provide training, and then we will have a local certifier here specifically for organic. These are some of example of improved facilities for high quality products. These are the initiative of some of our companies, and then they are training how to grow their outgrowers, and then some of the equipment to separate honey and beeswax from the traditional beekeeping. And then our association is working hand in glove with it is association member. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah, these are also some of the initiation of our association to transfer the technologies for specifically for women and older peoples, because the traditional beekeeping excludes women from taking part, especially in southwest of Ethiopia, where there is priority forest areas of the country. Since the beehives hang high upon the trees, it's very difficult for the women to involve in beekeeping. But these are some of the technologies developed by research center, and then our association is promoting these technologies, especially for low-income peoples, because they don't buy external inputs from outside, but they are constructing these hives from locally available materials. Yeah, these are some of products that already start to export to USA, and I will explain to later on. Yeah, our experience is very limited, as I mentioned earlier. It's a small quantity. Packaging is glass, as you see in previous slides. We have 30 gram, 250, 500, and 1,000 gram. Labeling is we have a local standard for labeling. We are using that one. Shipping is we are using by Ethiopian Airlines, and They are encouraging, and there is a discount for export market. Certification, there is no local certification body, both for organic and food safety management system, but there are few foreign companies that provide organic certification and food safety management system. But in the future, after the workshop, we will have local certification bodies. Next slide. Thank you. This is all about my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bishat. We appreciate your time and enlightening us about the honey sector in Ethiopia. We very, very much appreciate that. So we want to get to our last speaker of the day. And this is Janice Grover. Janice is the president of the Grover Global Food Marketing Company, and she is a specialty food consultant with 35 years in international markets. Janice is a marketing, new product development, and sales professional who is recognized for successfully transitioning international ethnic products into the US specialty food market. She has special expertise in delivering manageable business plans for retail and food service with branded and private label products. Janice has organized and executed launch strategies for specialty food products, working with brands in over 30 countries. She is a frequent keynote speaker at international and US conferences. And Janice is our specialty foods market linkages consultant at the USAID TradeHub East Africa. And so Janice, having listened to our experiences and how the governments are supporting promotion of exports to the US, you will be sharing on the next steps for East Africa specialty foods exporters on how to expand exports to the US. Welcome, Janice.
Hello, everyone. I'll move quickly because I know we're running out of time, or we're over in time. So this was one of the slides that I talked about previously and just wanted to repeat. You as a manufacturer are looking at cost of supply chain to the United States. You'd be bringing product in through containers, through truckloads, in pieces, getting to an importer, to a distributor, to either a restaurant, a club store, a consumer. Each layer adds another cost. So it's very safe to say that whatever your cost is, divide your retail cost by 4 if you see something on the shelf, and that's where your price started. I think that this is a key part of marketing the products. Understand now supply chain costs are increasing because of the pandemic. There's less truckers, there's less containers available, everything's taking a little longer, and so there's potential for additional delays. Next slide. Okay, just to let you know, the key population centers in the United States are the East Coast, the West. So you might be familiar with Chicago, Boston, New York, Miami, Houston, Texas, Los Angeles. You do not need to be concerned about supplying the products in the square states, the ones in the center of the country, as my friends sometimes say. That's not where the population is generally for your target brand. So it's a very complex market, but we can narrow it down to the areas you need to be successful. Next slide. As a result, just to reinforce this is population density. So what you're seeing is that most of the people that live in the United States are on the coast. Most of the people that buy your products, that buy specialty products, that have traveled extensively or are from international backgrounds, they're going to be living in these population centers. So it's a complex market, but we're trying to define it. Next slide. Okay, so what I always tell everyone I work with on imported products, I live in the center of this little grid here in the New York, New Jersey area. If you are able to be successful in this market, if you can find a warehouse here, if you can find a base of business, it represents 20% of the US specialty food market. This number hasn't changed a lot over the years. You just need to pick a market to be successful. It's not that you can't be successful in Chicago, you can't be successful in California, but you need to sort of talk about a region and then fully understand finding representation in that market. Next slide. Just to reinforce this, I can talk for an hour about this particular slide. You need to look at the way our highway system works and say, how am I going to move my product efficiently? What you need to be aware of is if your product, for example, was down at the southeast, it's very difficult for you to get it up to the northwest. So this is the highway system. It's all part of our transportation. Next slide. Okay, what are the trends? We've talked about this for the last couple of presentations. Organic, slow food, artisan, natural, healthy, sustainable, authentic, non-GMO, kosher, halal, gluten-free. I can continue to add those layers. That happens to be an organic turkey to give you the, that they're singeing the feathers off of. So that turkey, which would sell for $200 in the United States for the Thanksgiving holiday here. That's the type of premium we place on that type of product. So that is, next slide. Okay, so again, I can talk for a much longer time, but I want to leave room for questions. So I'm going to give you 10 tips that have been passed on to me. I heard these first actually in Australia with someone who was very successful in entering the US market. Is it one nation? Many people think of the US as one market. It's made up of many markets, as I've tried to explain. You need to look at segments and geography. You do need to spend money to make money. There's no such thing as a quick buck. You need to allocate time and resources to be successful in the United States. Next slide. Boldness. Modesty is not a virtue. You need to say your widget, your tea, your coffee is the best in the world, and then say 10 reasons why. Convey your competitive advantage very confidently. You're going to have a limited amount of time with a buyer. They want to know why should they add your product to their complexity of their day. You need to be patient but persistent. Don't think you're being rude. Everybody is going to have, there's a lot of emails that are coming in, voicemails. The key is to be successful is persistence. You ring, you continue to follow up until you feel uncomfortable, and then you keep contacting again and again. I'm not saying that you need to send an email every day, but it's very legitimate just to once a month, hi, how are you doing? Something new's happening in the market. While you don't want to waste their time, if you can provide some valuable information, that's one of the reasons a buyer would consider you an asset. Next slide. Business is king. Partners don't want to hear about the weather or how your soccer team is doing. They want to know how it relates specifically to their business. So this elevator pitch, what we talk about is you happen to get on an elevator at a hotel with the head buyer for the largest retailer you're trying to reach. Before you get from floor 10 to floor 1, in those seconds, are you able to say, I have purple tea, which doesn't exist in your market? It would be an ideal thing to add to your portfolio. Once you're friendly with someone, you can talk about their children, the blizzard, what's going on. But initially, you're trying to establish business. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. The US is one of the most litigious countries in the world. My nephew just graduated law school, and he's going to be working in intellectual property and has a whole career in front of him. You need to make sure you have agreements that your intellectual property is protected. You need to make sure you have your name trademark, your website. How are people going to reach you? You need to protect yourself and identify yourself. I just had a customer, person I deal with, who developed a wonderful product. Someone saw it on vacation, brought it back to the United States, and launched a very, very competing product, and now is considered the trademark base in the States. They trademarked it, they brought it in, this company trying to come in has found their product's been taken away. They changed a letter, that's all. It went from food D to foodie, so IE to Y. They've now lost their position. Talk to your lawyer. Next. Ask for a biscuit, get a scone when you really wanted a cookie. So make sure all marketing materials use US measurements, never use slang as we may not understand it. We use a lot of jargon, you need to learn our jargon. We don't deal in metric, we deal in imperial. You send me something in millimeters or kilos, it goes to the back of my desk because I just don't have time to convert it. Absence does not make the heart grow fonder. Business is all about contact. Most successful companies set up a stateside contact. They have a US phone number, a mailing address, an after-hour contact. Even though we can't get to the trade shows right now, as soon as trade shows become available, that becomes a priority. Final slide. Next slide. Yes. If you don't ask, you won't get it. So reach out to federal, state, government, Chamber of Commerce, whoever you know, and see if you can get assistance. And it's not what you know, but who you know. This old boy-girl network is alive. Join your trade association, attend trade shows. If there are areas of the country where you know that there are people from your country that are familiar with your product, you can target them as a contact. I'm not saying to avoid the population centers, but that is a base of business. So thank you very much. I did this quickly. Plan your work, work your plan, and now I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Janice. That is very informative. I mean, having listened to us yesterday and today, I mean, it has been quite informative. I want to request our last three speakers to please turn on your videos so that we can get questions from the participants. Kindly have your videos on. If any one of the participants have any questions, I haven't seen any coming through in the chat box. And even as we get to that segment, I want to request my colleague Naima to put in the link again for the feedback form, just in case there's somebody who has joined us, because we put the link when we started. In case there's somebody who's joined us, kindly do that for us. Just give us that feedback. It's really important. So anybody with any question? All right, maybe I can ask mine as we prepare. And Janice, you know, the 2 days we've received quite a lot of information, you know. And so what key resources are there online, you know, for reference by East African exporters who are aspiring to export to the US? And would you kindly explain which US specialty food trade associations would be useful to East African exporters?
I think it depends on the product. So there is if you have coffee or tea or honey, there are trade-specific organizations which we've identified in this report. There's the Specialty Food Association, which is the general organization that would be a key place to contact and be a member and to join for the entire industry. At the same time, if you have an organic or natural food product, then you'd want to look at there's actually the Natural Trade Association. So I think that it's hard to be general. You want to be product specific. Private label trade association is also important if you want to do something with your brand. So these are all the different pieces you want to approach. You're asking what are the next stages? I think the people that have spoken with us, you need a customs broker. You can work with the customs broker that spoke yesterday. You're going to need a sales representative. You can work with the broker yesterday. You're going to need someone, you really need an Amazon online strategy. You could work with the company we spoke to yesterday. You're going to need someone who's going to assist you with labeling, nutritional, packaging design. You need these specialists. And so we have a portfolio of contacts, and each one of them is a starting point. You decide. I always say that it's like dating. You're going to start a relationship, and everybody will tell you some of the relationships work and some of them don't. So you just need to balance. You're not getting married. You're just starting. I'm a great fit for some people, and some people say you're talking too fast, you're moving too fast. That's, you know, we need to go more deliberately. So then someone else is a better fit.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Tahiri, we just want to hear, like how have you protected your unique branding and packaging from copying? I mean, your product is quite unique and very distinct. So how have you protected that unique branding and packaging from copying?
Thank you. Thank you for that compliment on our branding. We did invest a lot in our branding because it's very important to make sure that every element of your brand values and guidelines need to reflect what you stand for. And we wanted a product that was, internationally competitive and can sit on the same shelf as a tea from, anywhere else in the world. So yeah, I mean, we have invested in trademark and IP of our branding, but that's only locally in Tanzania. So I think if and when we do expand further into the US, etc., we do need to look into the legal issues on that side. We're also looking at it in Europe, but yeah, we're still at the beginning of that journey.
Great, thank you. Adubna, you have enlightened us about the honey sector in Ethiopia, and we have seen that Ethiopia it's quite a major producer of honey. You have the fourth largest colonies in the world. What are the unique characteristics of honey from various regions, and do you think telling the story about the source can increase its marketability in the US?
Yeah, yes, you're right. We have different agroecologies in Ethiopia, and then we have natural forests. We have indigenous trees or indigenous flora, and then we have very unique honeys that have different taste and aroma. And then if we promote our products, really we can win the market. And then we have a very diverse honey types, very unique. The other thing is we also in the process to develop products from honey. For instance, one company already in the process to market a product from honey that is hydromel, or we call it honey drink, flavored with traditional Ethiopian spices that found in the forest. So really the problem is we didn't promote our product very well. And then even we also did pollen analysis for different honey types, and then really we have a very unique honey. Starting from the north up to the south and from west to east, we have a very distinct honey.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I can see we're already up against the time that we had planned to end. And I want all the speakers to have their videos on. We are drawing to the close of this session. So all the speakers, kindly have your videos on. We want to invite any input, any final comments, any final thoughts, as I encourage all of us to share the feedback. I'm receiving some feedback already from those forms. So all of us, all the speakers, kindly have your video on. And I just want to encourage any final thoughts, any final input, any final comment from you. And then we are going to hand it over to Margaret for a word before we close.
It was a pleasure talking to other exporters and learning from them. And I hope, as you said at the beginning, we keep in contact and maybe we share experiences on how to access the US market. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet. Janice, you're saying something?
Oh, sorry, I thought you had asked for me. I'm saying we just have to look for these opportunity gaps and plan, put together a plan, and then work on the plan. It's not an insurmountable market, but you have to be realistic and you have to put the time in. And obviously, there's many people that are successful in bringing products here. It's just a matter of understanding what the buyer needs. So I'm looking forward to working with everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that as well, Leanne.
All right. Okay, Meg.
I think there's truly some opportunities for synergy. You know, as I said in my talk, you know, you can't do this alone. You really have to have those partnerships. So I look at, you know, how can a potential customer base that likes a certain product that maybe is coming out of Kenya, maybe it could be even teamed up with a product that's coming out of Uganda, and go to the same region and try to find those economies of scales to work together. So I do hope that we can find some of that coming out of this meeting.
Thank you for that input, Meg. Tahira, you have something to say?
Yeah, I mean, I completely echo what everyone else said as well. And I think it is definitely something that we as agribusinesses often grapple with is, do we want to be fully vertically integrated? You know, we're focused on production and we're focused on making sure that we have a product that is, you know, quality controlled, tested, you know, we're working on our branding. And then to think about, you know, how we can take this to market, et cetera. So I echo that we do need to look at partnerships. And I think probably the most effective way for African agribusiness to get into the US market and to compete is to have partners on the ground that can help us, you know, navigate the market, navigate logistics, sales, etc. And so the platforms like these are really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tahira. Wubishet, you have any parting shot for us?
Yes, yeah. If it is possible, I think it's a good idea if you organize a platform and then if we share our experiences, ideas, and views among similar associations or institutions in East Africa.
Thank you for that recommendation. Margaret?
Let me unmute. Thank you very much for all the comments. Thank you to the speakers, all of you, every one of you, for taking the time to prepare those presentations, leaving your work and coming to be a resource person for this very important meeting. I'd like to thank each and every one of you who have spoken and who have very ably shared your knowledge and your experience. I'd also like to thank the audience who have come on board and who have asked questions and who have participated very actively in the meeting. I'd like to challenge each and every one of you. This webinar is just a first step for some of you on your journey to exporting to the US. For others of you, you've already been exporting, but there's something new that you took away. My challenge to you is to please apply what you have heard, find out more from the experts, and then just implement it in your business. And for all of us, we hope you'll see a big impact on exports from our region to the US. We have the products, we have the growing conditions, we have the expertise. All we needed is to know exactly how to go about it. So I think this is the first step in you getting from where you are up to the US market. I'd like to just remind you, if you have not filled out your questionnaire, this is what helps us to plan for future events. So if you have not filled the questionnaire, please fill it. It only takes a minute. Fill it, give us the feedback, and the next one we'll do will improve. As I mentioned in the earlier meeting, it's very important that we understand what the US Food and Drug Administration requires. And since we're not experts on that, we are looking to see how we can organize a session where they themselves can come and speak to us about what they expect, how to go about it, and what the requirements are. So we'll let you know as soon as that is organized and we're ready to do so. We'll be able to invite you to that meeting again. So beyond that, I'd like to say a great session for all of you, and I'd like to thank you and have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Kwaherini sana.
Bye.
Thank you.